And Bobby already cheated a little bit, so let's see our top picks. I think everybody already knows what you're gonna pick, but why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, and I think for our list, I think it's very tailored to our personalities and to what we collected. So, welcome back, Bot versus Con fans. As always, I'm your guy Bobby, aka Bot,
And I'm your Con, aka James.
and today we have a special recording for you. We're actually going to talk about all this hoopla that's been going on with the Missing Link, and we want to kind of share with you some thoughts about how we got involved with G1 toys, that is, but then also what would we like to see, if possible, from the Missing Link collection.
Yes, if we had control, what characters would we choose? I can already tell you it's very different split between the two. But why don't we just talk about our relationship with G1 toys? And Bobby, why don't you go first?
Sure. So it's funny. My first Transformer was Hound, and I picked it up at a store in California that's no longer around. I think it was called Thrifty at the time, and I was probably 7 or 8 years old. I think probably 7 years old, and I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I just didn't know what to do with myself. It was just like I have a car and a robot at the same time. How is this possible? I had Hot Wheels, or I had maybe like some He-Man or whatever was popular then, but you never had both. So that for me was everything.
Yes, so that's really cool. For me, it's a little more nuanced. So I grew up with Beast Wars. So I didn't have many G1 toys. I think I had a few G2 toys when I was a kid, mostly from my dad giving them to me because he used to just buy toys off the shelf because he thought it was cool. He wasn't a collector. He just liked these little robots. But my first real G1 figures were Machine Wars, which were repaints.
Mhm.
And I didn't understand them because I grew up in a time where everything was articulated. Didn't matter. They had shoulders, hips, elbows, swivels, anything you could think of, ball joints everywhere. But there was one that I really liked, which we will get to. And that started that. And I've been getting them throughout the years, usually as presents from my dad still. Shout out to him.
Good
Because he
dad.
knows he can't go wrong buying me one because I probably don't have it.
That is very true. Good dad there.
So, yes. So, yeah. So that's my relationship with them. I do love them. They're fun to play with. It's a blast from the past. So why don't we talk a little bit about the new figure that's coming out, and that is the Convoy. And here he is in all of his glory. So, what are the differences, Bobby?
So the Missing Link 1 or 2. So the one on the left is actually 2, and the one on the right is the Missing Link 1. And so a couple of differences that you can tell on this one, on some of these pictures, and others you really can't. But on the Missing Link 1, it has the 2 insignias on the shoulders versus 2 only has it on the left shoulder. The paint on the feet and the legs and the details there. Also on the forearm on the Missing Link 1 is there's some blue and silver. It's not there on 2. Also, the chrome chest piece is all chrome on 1, where it's yellow on the 2. And then the yellow eyes on 1 versus the blue eyes on 2. Now, it also looks like the matrix is a little bit different as well. It looks like the matrix on 1 is pretty much gold all the way around. And on 2, it looks like it's just the center is actually like a bronze color. And so those are the differences that I was able to tell so far from both. And I'm excited about both.
Yes, I also think the window color is different. I
Ah,
think on the 1 it is clear, and on the 2 it is blue color. At least from these pictures.
yes. I was thinking it was actually the matrix shining through, but that could be.
that might be as well. So we'll see. They do look good though. I couldn't resist not putting that box art pose of that Optimus Prime in there because that's really cool. I like that again.
That was the G1 box, him flying through space and basically doing what he did in the movie, taking out Decepticons.
Yes. So why don't we get into what we want to see? And let's start off with some honorable mentions. Now, I'm going to say mine are a little out there because I probably wouldn't buy them. Just going to be honest with you because, like I said, my toys were already articulated. I've got, Optimus Primal. It has everything you need. And this was one of my first toys. So, well, the normal version, not the Universe version. But anyways, so I probably wouldn't get them. So I try to figure out things that I would buy. That's a disclaimer. But now let's move into it. And Bobby already cheated a little bit. So let's see with what he picked for his first one.
So this would actually be, this is my honorable mention. And this would actually be a whole retool. Probably because honestly, this looked nothing like the G1 cartoon. These were actually very horrible. I actually have the Ratchet. I do not have the Ironhide, and there was a sticker for the face. Now there were some aftermarket parts where you can actually clip on a head, which I thought was really cool, and I've been actually thinking about doing that for my Ratchet. But these definitely, no articulation. I mean, really the legs and the chest were held together by two, look like sticks, basically holding it together. So this would be a full retool, but I think it would be amazing to have some articulation and maybe a pop-up head or something like that to give it the full, Ratchet or Ironhide. And yes, I kind of cheated because if you do one, then you might as well do the other. So because it's basically just a different paint job on these. But also, if the weapons, if you could, one of the things that G1 toys had was the removable fist and just the hole in the middle. And so it would be cool if you could actually spin something out and have a weapon, or if the fist folded in or something like that, similar to what they're doing with the Missing Link Prime.
Yeah, I think this would be really cool. And like you said, it would have to be a complete redo. This would not be like the Missing Link line. It would be, the alien line coming down and changing everything, because this would need to be completely changed.
Yes.
So I chose somebody that's kind of out there, and I chose Windweper. And I chose this because I really like how this figure looks with the guns. I've always liked it. I think it's very unique, very cool. And I used to have the guidebook. It was a Transformers guidebook where it would show the figure, or not the figure, the character, their alt mode, and it would have a bio, their weaknesses, and their their armaments and all this stuff. And I loved that thing as a kid, and he always stuck out to me because of those guns. So I don't think we're going to be seeing him anytime soon in Legacy, so I would be okay with a Missing Link version of it.
So the one thing that's funny about this, and what I probably did with some of my figures if I were to go look, is applying those stickers. I'm looking, and that left leg of his, that sticker is put on absolutely crooked, which is probably the scene of a lot of my Transformers from, if I still had them from my childhood. So that's funny to me. That is a true G1er right there.
It definitely is. All right, well, let's get into the list proper and start with number 5. So, Bobby, who did you pick?
Oh, man. So, number 5. This is something that I'm missing right now in a MP scale. I've been begging for, and it's Computron. Now, I would say all the combiners, but if I had to pick one, I would love to see a modern-day Computron. This was probably my favorite combiner as a kid because the vehicles were so different. Each one had its own different personality. It wasn't like the Stunticons were all cars and a truck. We kind of saw that with the Autobots. The aerial bots were all jets. The Predacons were all beasts. The Terracons were beasts. But this one, it was just like you had a motorcycle, you had a sports car, you had a jet, you had a huge jet, you had a drill. It was just so cool, and it was bulky. This, the other ones were really skinny, like, especially Superion and the aerial bots couldn't stand up. This one was really solid, and I just loved this character. It was smart. I loved it on the cartoon. So if I could get this, MP first, of course, but if I can get this re-release with some articulation, I'd be all over it.
Yeah, this would have to be a lot of work to get it to be posable. But I think that would be really cool if they did.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So my number 5 is Scorponok. I always liked Scorponok. I always wanted this G1 toy, and if it was more posable, I think this would be a really cool toy. I mean, I already know it has some pretty good posability, especially for a G1 toy, but if it had, like, everything you could think of, I think this would work as a generation Scorponok if it was posable. So yeah, I think it looks cool. I'd totally buy that. That's one I would actually buy.
I loved this toy when I had it as a kid, so I can't argue with you there.
All right. Well, that was fast. Let's go to number 4. Now, who'd you pick for this one?
So again, I probably cheated a little bit, but
I was about to say you cheated again.
It's because it's Transformers cheated. That's what they did. So I picked Sunstreaker and Sideswipe. I mean the Lambo brothers. So here we go again. With Sunstreaker, those fists that just pop out. I know so many people who had this as a kid, and they used to, they would lose a fist or something like that, and just the articulation. Lamborghinis were my favorite cars growing up, the Countach in particular. So some articulation here, even though we had elbow bends, to have some head swivels, some knee bends, and all that. Oh man, you'd make my day. Plus, those are just beautiful cars. So there's not much to say. I mean, Sunstreaker was arrogant, and I loved it. That just put some articulation in those guys, and I'm sold.
Yeah, I would not be sold, but I think they do fit really well for this line. Sunstreaker almost went on my list because he is one of my favorite Autobots, and he's one of my friend's favorite Autobots, so I almost put that in as a little gift to him, so I'm glad that you did that. But yeah, I mean, I think if they continue this line, these are ones we would see as long as the license pans out.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I chose Overlord because, again, I chose toys that I want even the G1 figure of, and I would like this better with articulation. I think it's a really cool toy. It has a lot of playability. I have the Mastermind Creations one. Very happy with it, but I wouldn't mind having another one. He's been one of my favorite figures since even before the Wreckers. I just love the colors. I love that he's a giant duocon. So I would totally be picking this up.
So this is one I did not have as a kid, and I think I was introduced to him in Titan's Return, I believe it was.
Yes.
And then I picked up the Fans Hobby version, and I like them. But that's really cool. I think I was either out or never thought about
Japanese exclusive.
Or yeah, that's probably what it was for my G1 collecting days.
Yeah, you wouldn't have got this unless you imported it in. But I do like them, and I would totally get that. So on to number 3. Now, who'd you choose?
Oh man, this one. So initially it was just like Starscream, but then I was just like, well, if you do Starscream again, you got the Seekers. And this is another one where I think I had Starscream and Ramjet, and as always, I would lose that wheel, that front wheel, the landing gear that you had to plug in, and the fist would always get lost somewhere. I'd find the fist and one day, and then couldn't find the wheel, and then another day I'd find the wheel and couldn't find the fist. So having it that it was like an all-in-one, maybe even if the fist maybe folded up so it would become thinner and slid into the arm or something like that, because those fists were like boxing gloves. So
they were
that that would be ideal. I mean, even with the MPs now, the null rays, plug in and plug out during transformation, so I'd be okay with that. But having the wheel stay attached, no parts forming there, and having those fists somehow slide in or slide out, that would be amazing.
I agree. I actually have some of the Seeker molds, and I think out of all of the ones on the list, except for one more, this is probably the most probable that's going to come out, because they're printing money by at least making these 3.
Yeah.
So
if they make these 3, they have to make the cone heads.
Well, don't give them too much credit.
No. Okay.
It took how long to get the masterpiece cone heads after these were released for so long?
Yeah.
So, anyways, so for my number 3, I cheated this time, so you can get mad at me, and I chose Black Shadow and Blue Bacchus. Because, again, these are figures I want as G1, so if they came with more posability, I'd be totally cool with them. I think they're both really cool figures. I don't think there has been a Blue Bacchus ever since this, and I would really like that. Honestly, I think it'd be cool if a third party got like a Springer or somebody and painted it as this obscure character for a TFCon, just because it's weird. And Black Shadow is just cool. So I would totally pick that up. And they could repaint it as Thunderwing, because you know how they like to repaint stuff. So this is who I would like to see, just because I wouldn't mind having these original ones. I know you have a hate for Pretenders. What do you think of these 2?
The hate continues.
Their shells transform.
I actually have no recollection of these at all. I mean, again, Pretenders is what really pushed me out of Transformers.
These weren't released in the US.
The line of Pretenders. I mean, I just remember the commercial of Optimus Prime saying, "We're giving up the power to transform to become more human-like." I said, "What is this? This is dumb. This takes the whole loving the Transformers out of it." And then when they did transform, what they transformed into didn't really look like anything. So it was like a real afterthought, and my whole love of the alt modes and all those things went away because these things looked, as James liked to say, lazy. And that's exactly.
Yeah, I can see that. I want these for the characters. I want a space gangster and a sidekick. Sorry, that's what I want. So I totally buy these though. I want them even the way they are now, but they're a little too rare and expensive for me when I could go buy a masterpiece figure. So yeah, they're cool though. Let's get into number 2. Now, who did you choose?
I chose something that we're seeing a lot of. It's been very popular this year in the third party as well as now Hasbro, and that's G1 Ultra Magnus. This figure suffered so bad around the legs and head. The arms, you could move the arms, but a lot of that was due to transformation as well. But he literally was like a brick with some arms on him. And even though the inner robot was a prime that, I mean, honestly, the missing link, we can do it,
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. When I talked about the Seekers, I think this one has the greatest probability of any of these on the list, because they already have half of it.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And so if they just clamped on, which you would love, if they just, it would be parts forming, but if they just clamped on the trailer around those movable legs and articulated arms and things like that, I think we'd have a winner here. That would actually rival third party in essence, because of the nostalgia of it being a G1 figure. And then if it had the posability and the armor attached, oh, sign me up. I'd be all in for this.
Yes, I think this would be pretty cool. I would just want the cab if they did that whole thing like they did with Optimus. They probably wouldn't, but yeah, I would. This would tempt me more into it. honestly. But I went the complete opposite route and chose his rival, which is Six Shot. Six Shot's one of my favorite G1 characters of all time. I just like the idea of a ninja transformer that's not completely evil, but just follows the orders. And he has 6 different modes, so that's a lot of fun. This is sound like a broken record. I want the G1 toy of this. So I would love to have the G1 toy plus some articulation. And I think this would be pretty easy to do. Some of the other ones, like Ultra Magnus, would have a lot of remolding to have to take place in like the legs and stuff like this. This one, you just cut it out and make a swivel here and there, and you're not losing much. So I would pick this one up in a heartbeat, honestly. Even, if Hasbro made a Generations one, I'm going to be showing my true colors. I'd buy any 6 shot that they come out with. So, Commander Class 6 shot, let's go.
I did love this figure as well. The jet mode and a couple of the vehicle modes were the strong suit. I thought the gun was a weak mode for it because it, couldn't nobody really hold him except for me. So I thought that was a weak mode for him, but I did love this character. And honestly, I agree with you. A lot of the articulation on this figure was due to transformation. So it would probably be pretty easy for them to just, as you said, add something here and there to get the arms to bend or get the legs to bend forward instead of backwards due to transformation.
Yeah, exactly. Give him elbows. Have a thing come down and he has elbows. I think this would be an easy one. So he looks. I love this color scheme too. So
yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into our top picks. I think everybody already knows what you're gonna pick, but why don't you go ahead?
If you're gonna have a prime, and you're gonna do everything G1 with a prime, who's he gonna go against? It has to be Megatron. And there's been, rumors, they've been unproven. Most of the people have said that it's fake, but I know we won't get a G1 Megatron gun. But if we could, absolutely amazing. Now, this Megatron was a terrible figure in terms of it looking like the cartoon. It looked nothing like the cartoon at all. But this would be amazing. This alt mode was everything to me as a kid. And I remember when stuff started happening, and I was in California, and this looked like a real gun. Gangs were really at a high at that time, and they started putting the orange plug in and then painting it different colors and all this other stuff to let cops know that this was a toy gun. But this was everything to me as a kid. And honestly, I never got Megatron until I was actually a teenager, or actually in college. I got my first Megatron. Yeah, at like 19 or 20. So, yeah.
Yeah, like you, I don't think this has any chance of coming out. I think for the Decepticons, they're going to make Starscream, like you put on your list. And I'm surprised Soundwave didn't make your list, because I think that is a very, very high contender because again, just like we talked about Six Shot, it's pretty easy to make him articulated. He already has joints in the hips, knees, elbows, and shoulders. Just improve those a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's another contender. Like I said, I'm surprised that didn't come on your list. But I don't think we're going to be seeing this. Maybe they'll do a G2 Megatron in G1 color, so at least you have some sort of Megatron.
Yeah.
I don't know what they would do unless they just make Starscream in silver and say, yeah, it's Megatron. He was always a jet.
I would absolutely hate that. I would absolutely. Honestly, if they did a G2 Megatron, I would hate it, but I would understand why, and I would appreciate it because and if they did it in these colors, I would appreciate it, even though I would hate it, but I would understand why.
Yeah. So my number one is G1.5 Skyquake. Now, I only picked this because of the mold, because I really have no connection with Skyquake, but I do have a connection with Machine Wars Starscream. And this was the figure that changed G1 figures in my world. I got this and I absolutely loved it. And it's probably it is my favorite toy in this aesthetic. Mine is missing all the missiles because I had it when I was a kid. I actually have a second one because I left it outside one day after playing with it, and then I forgot, and when I ran out, somebody stole it. So my parents had to buy me another one because I wouldn't stop talking about it, and I was like 4. I really like this. I think this would be cool. The articulation wouldn't be too hard to put in. I know it's never going to happen, so you don't have to tell me down in the comments that this is never going to happen. I know it's not going to happen. I just would love to see it happen.
I don't even know this figure, and
it's Machine War. It's Starscream.
It's somewhat familiar.
This was my first iteration of Starscream I ever saw. Oh, man. I didn't know who that was in the Beast Wars cartoon when it came. This was my Starscream, and I was very confused after seeing Armada and this when I saw G1 Starscream. Yeah. So I still think this is a better design. You know, it is a better toy than the Seekers, objectively. But it came out, 5-6 years later. Yep. I get it. But I can understand why you would like G1 Starscream.
Yeah, I mean, and I think for our list, I think it's very tailored to our personalities and to what we collected. So, please let us know what you think of our list. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What would be on your list? Because this is, of course, our fantasy here of what we would like to see from the Missing Link collection. If this is actually going to be a collection or if this is just a one-off, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the future holds. Hopefully it's not a one-time thing that they're doing. Yeah. So, as always, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I'm even going to go one further. Hit that little bell icon so you know when we upload. And we'll see you guys very soon.
All right. As always, to all debates are won. Let us know what you think in the comments. See you next time.